and go.
Several hundred years after God's promise to Abraham, it looked like things had gotten way off track. When God told Abraham to leave his home, he promised to give him a new land in Canaan. It was going to be a great land. It was supposed to remind God's people of the garden they once had. It would be sweet and refreshing with plenty of milk and honey. But Abraham and his sons never really possessed the land they were promised. And now it was 400 years later, and they were slaves in Egypt. How Abraham's family got to Egypt is a long story, but here's the short version. They went to Egypt because there was a famine in Canaan. And when they got to Egypt, Jacob's sons found their long-lost brother Joseph, who helped get them food and a place to live, even though he was there because of his 10 older brothers had been jealous and sold him into slavery after they almost killed him because of his fancy coat. I told you it was a long story. Well, delivering them from famine was one thing. That's when Israel family was still pretty small. Israel, by the way, was Jacob's new name. I guess everyone needed 2 names back then. But hundreds of years later, the family was huge. How would God save a couple million people from slavery? It's not like he could just turn the Nile River into blood and send frogs and gnats and flies and diseases and boils and hail and locusts and darkness and death until the king of Egypt let them go. Actually, that's what God did. God raised up Moses to deliver his people, but in reality, God did all the work. He sent the plagues. He led the people with the fire and clouds. He made the sea turn to dry land so the Israelites could walk through, and he turned the dry land back to sea when the Egyptians tried to cross the river. It seemed that no matter what the Israelites did or what everyone else did to them, God always found a way to save his people.